Hi there, I'm Annegreet, but you can call me Anne, and I'm a creative enthusiast located in the Netherlands. I started my art journey in 2019 when I started doing hand lettering and explored since then various mediums, and I'm now more of a painter using watercolors, aquarelle, gouache, urban sketching. In my 6 years of creativity, I've noticed that starting a new project, a sketchbook or a new medium can be scary, even though it's super exciting. So in this video, I want to explain what makes it scary for me and give you 5 tips on how you can do it anyway. So what makes starting art so scary? Well, first of all, you never know what the end result will look like because you haven't started yet, and probably because you want it to look nice. I had this when I started this project 2 weeks ago. It's now almost finished. I might need to do some finishing touches. But what I've noticed was that I hadn't touched my watercolors in a while, so the medium was again a bit unsure to me. The paper that I used is 100% cotton paper, which is something that I'm definitely not proficient with yet. So the outcome of the piece wasn't guaranteed. Next to that, I want to do it good because it's a commission and it's a portrait, and in portraits you're looking for a likeness, and especially if it's a commission, you want to make sure that it works out well. So luckily I know now after 6 years that the best thing to get me over this fear of failure, the self-doubt and the need for perfectionism is to start. So how can we move past that fear of starting? Here are 5 tips that have helped me along the way. Tip number 1, make it easy. For this project, I decided to start with a light sketch and then use Procreate to verify if my sketch was correct. So I will start by taking a photo of my sketch. I will enable Drawing Guide to see if the parallel sides of my paper are also parallel to the grid. If not, I will use the distort function to change these angles. The next step is resizing the picture. You can do this by dragging the dots, or you can use your fingers. The next step is to reduce the transparency of the picture and then align a key element. Here I chose to align the eye, but you can also align the bow tie or the ear, whatever you think is currently working the best. And with this, you can move on to the next phase. This helps me to know that I'm on the right track. You could also trace something, a reference picture, to make sure that you're getting where you want to go. And even though tracing might not feel that artsy, it's better than not starting at all. When you're starting a new sketchbook, it might be nice to start with swatches. Swatches are a nice way to try a medium in a new sketchbook. So for example, in this sketchbook, I started with these swatches in the back so that I knew that it was not going to mess up my sketchbook, and it gave me a feel for the medium and my new sketchbook. You can also try things like color mixes or paint a subject you're familiar with. Some people paint their own art supplies on the first page of a sketchbook. And these things will help you get over the fear of starting. Number 2, have a dedicated sketchbook. This is one of my dedicated sketchbook, and this one is dedicated to gouache. When I started with this medium, I had a hard time because it was so different from my watercolors and I didn't really know how to use it. So when I dedicated this sketchbook to gouache, it helped me to get started. So if you look at the first portraits that I drew in this or painted in this, you'll see that they have a watercolor-like quality and they might not really look like pretty people yet, but they were okay because my gouache sketchbook was meant to experiment with gouache. Having dedicated this sketchbook to gouache lowered the barrier for me to experiment and to continue my journey with gouache. Tip number 3, join or set yourself an art challenge. When I started in 2019, I did a bunch of these hand lettering challenges. Every month, multiple people will put out art challenges where they serve you prompts to draw or to letter, and these will help you get over the choice paralysis. or the lack of inspiration. And all these things will help you get started faster. The prompt will give you some inspiration so that you can start right away. Sticking to a challenge is another thing, but I will get to that in a later video. Tip number 4, reframe the purpose of tutorials. Often when we start a tutorial, we want to make an exact replica of that tutorial, and that might get in the way of starting that tutorial, because we might look at it and be like, I can never create something that pretty. And it might be true, you might not be able to exactly replicate it, but it's also not the goal of the tutorial. The goal of the tutorial is to try out a different medium, to be creative, or maybe even try a new art style. Tutorials are a great way to learn, because that's what they're about. They're about growth. So I will show you an example of a tutorial that I did. So it's this one. And next to it, you will see what the original one looked like. And this is a tutorial that actually, for me, changed how I worked with gouache. This is the moment where I learned more and more that gouache was a medium that I could use way more opaque than I used to, and I got better grip of the material. Is it a perfect replica from the tutorial? No. Is it a pretty painting in my sketchbook? Yes. Did it teach me a lot? Yes. So from now on, if you try a tutorial, don't be afraid to experiment, to make it your own, because the tutorial is all about your growth. Tip number 5, look back to move forward. If you look back into your sketchbook, you will see your progress. So if we look at the beginning of my gouache sketchbook, you'll see that my portraits aren't that great, but if we go through it, there are some pieces where I can definitely see my progress. So this is a course that I did, so that'll help a bit. When you look back at pieces you made a year ago, or maybe even 2 years or 3 years, and for me, I can go even back to some of my early hand lettering work, I definitely can see the progress that I made. And this progress motivates me to create another piece, because I know that it will definitely look better than the things that I did 3 years ago. And it might be that it isn't the best piece of this week or the best piece of this month, but every piece will contribute to your progress. So I hope that knowing this, looking back at your own pieces, will give you the courage to start a new piece and enjoy the progress that you will make by then. Especially if you have a dedicated sketchbook. This dedicated sketchbook is a nice way to see your progress with a material or a subject, depending on what you dedicate your sketchbook to. Whether it's making it easy for yourself, dedicating some sketchbook, joining an art challenge, reframing the tutorials you follow, or flipping through some old sketchbook to see your progress. Hopefully these tips will inspire you to pick up your art supplies and create your next project. Remember, practice makes progress. I hope one of these tips will help you pick up your art supplies and start creating some amazing pieces. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear from you in the comments below what tips you will try out, or if there's something else that's been blocking you during your art journey. And if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and join me for more creative adventures.